Most people believe they are not successful because they lack talent. They look at experts, creators, entrepreneurs, athletes, and assume those people were born different, smarter, more gifted, naturally capable. It becomes easy to say, I'm just not that talented. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the real difference is not talent, but direction? In today's world, opportunities are everywhere. Skills are accessible. Information is unlimited. Yet many people feel stuck, average, or behind. Not because they lack ability, but because their effort is scattered. They move, but without a defined destination. They work, but without a clear trajectory. In this video, we will break down why direction matters more than raw talent, how scattered effort destroys potential, and how clarity can turn ordinary ability into extraordinary results. Because most people don't lack talent, they lack direction. The myth of not being talented. Many people believe they are not successful because they lack talent. They look at athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, or speakers and assume those individuals were born different. They think success is the result of natural gifts that only a few lucky people receive. This belief feels logical, but it is incomplete. Talent does exist. Some people may start with certain advantages: faster learning ability, better memory, physical strength, or natural confidence. But talent alone rarely explains long-term success. If talent were the main factor, every gifted child would become extraordinary as an adult. That rarely happens. What often separates successful individuals from others is not raw ability, but clarity. They know what they are aiming for. They focus their energy in one direction. Instead of spreading effort across random interests, they invest time consistently in a specific path. When people say, I'm just not talented, it is sometimes a protection mechanism. It shifts responsibility away from decision-making and long-term focus. It is easier to blame a lack of talent than to admit a lack of direction. In this video, we will explore why direction matters more than talent and how clarity can transform ordinary ability into exceptional results. What direction really means. When we talk about direction, we are not simply talking about having a dream or vague ambition. Direction means clarity about where you are going and why you are going there. It is the difference between moving and progressing. You can be busy every day and still move in circles if you do not have a defined target. Imagine standing in an open field. If you start running without choosing a destination, you will expend energy but reach nowhere meaningful. However, if you pick a clear point on the horizon and move toward it consistently, even small steps create measurable progress. Direction transforms effort into advancement. Direction also creates decision filters. When you know your goal, you can evaluate opportunities more effectively. You ask, does this move me closer to my objective? If the answer is no, you avoid distraction. Without direction, everything seems equally important. With direction, priorities become clearer. Most people are not lacking intelligence or potential. They are overwhelmed by options. Modern life offers endless possibilities: careers, skills, content, paths. Without defined direction, energy gets scattered, and scattered energy weakens results. Clarity does not guarantee success, but it dramatically increases the efficiency of effort. Scattered effort destroys potential. One of the biggest reasons people feel untalented is because their effort is scattered. They start learning one skill, then switch to another. They begin a project, lose interest, and move on. Each new attempt feels exciting at first, but without consistency, progress remains shallow. Skill development requires repetition and depth. When you constantly change direction, you remain at the beginner level in multiple areas. This creates frustration. You may conclude, maybe I'm just not good at anything. But the problem is not ability, it is insufficient focused time in one direction. Imagine digging for water. If you dig 10 shallow holes in different places, you will not find water. But if you dig one deep hole in a single location, you eventually reach it. Depth requires patience. Scattered digging produces exhaustion without results. The modern environment increases this problem. Social media exposes you to countless success stories across different fields. You see someone succeeding in business, someone else in fitness, another in content creation. It becomes tempting to switch paths frequently. But real progress demands commitment to a chosen direction long enough for compounding to begin. Without that, potential remains unrealized. Clarity reduces self-doubt. When someone lacks direction, they often experience confusion and self-doubt. They question their abilities because they do not see consistent results. But uncertainty about the path often gets mistaken for weakness and skill. The mind interprets slow or unclear progress as personal inadequacy. Clarity changes this dynamic. When you know exactly what you are working toward, progress becomes measurable. You can track improvement. Even small advancements feel meaningful because they align with a defined objective. This reduces unnecessary comparison with others who may be on completely different paths. Without direction, comparison becomes toxic. You compare your beginning in one area to someone else's mastery in another. You feel behind because there is no fixed reference point. But once you define your path, comparison becomes internal rather than external. You measure yourself against your past performance. Clarity does not eliminate challenges. It eliminates confusion. And confusion often creates more emotional stress than difficulty itself. When your energy moves in a clear direction, effort feels purposeful. That sense of purpose strengthens confidence, not because you suddenly became more talented, but because your actions now have alignment. Direction creates skill compounding. One of the most underestimated forces in personal growth is compounding. We usually hear about compounding in finance, where small investments grow exponentially over time. The same principle applies to skills. When you consistently work in one direction, your efforts begin to build on each other. At the beginning, progress feels slow. You practice, learn, make mistakes, and improve slightly. But over months and years, those small improvements accumulate. What once required effort becomes automatic. You gain efficiency. You see patterns faster. Your confidence increases. Each new step becomes easier because of previous steps. When direction is missing, compounding never starts. You reset your progress every time you switch focus. It feels like you are always beginning from zero. That constant reset creates the illusion that you lack talent, when in reality you lack continuity. Direction allows your learning to stack. Your past experiences support your future growth. Knowledge connects. Skills reinforce each other. Over time, the gap between someone with direction and someone without it becomes massive, even if they started with the same level of natural ability. Talent may determine your starting speed, but direction determines your trajectory. Environment without direction creates drift. In today's world, opportunities are everywhere. You can learn anything online. You can switch careers. You can experiment with different skills. While this freedom is powerful, it also creates drift. Drift happens when you move based on impulse rather than intention. Without direction, your environment starts deciding for you. Trends influence your goals. Peer success influences your choices. Temporary motivation influences your effort. You react instead of choosing deliberately. Over time, this reactive pattern creates inconsistency. Drift feels productive in the short term because you are always doing something. But activity without alignment rarely produces meaningful progress. You may stay busy for years without building depth in any single domain. This leads to frustration and the belief that others are naturally better. Direction acts like a stabilizer. It protects you from being pulled by every new opportunity or distraction. It does not mean ignoring everything else. It means evaluating options based on a larger plan. When direction is strong, your environment influences you less. You influence your environment more. Direction turns ordinary effort into expertise. Expertise is rarely the result of sudden brilliance. It is usually the result of sustained, focused effort applied over time. When someone commits to one path and continues refining their skills, they move from beginner to intermediate, from intermediate to advanced. This gradual evolution often looks like talent from the outside, but what we call talent is frequently the outcome of direction plus time. When you focus consistently on one domain, you begin to notice patterns others miss. You make fewer mistakes. You operate with efficiency. What once required conscious effort becomes intuitive. That intuition is not magic, it is accumulated experience. Direction also allows you to tolerate boredom. Every meaningful skill includes repetitive practice. Without a clear reason for doing it, repetition feels pointless. With direction, repetition becomes investment. You understand that small daily actions are contributing to a larger objective. Over time, this focused repetition transforms ordinary ability into expertise. The difference between someone average and someone exceptional often lies in years of directed practice. Talent may influence the starting line, but direction determines how far you travel. And most people underestimate how powerful sustained focus can be. How to build direction intentionally. Direction is not something you wait to discover. It is something you build. Many people expect clarity to arrive suddenly, as if one day they will wake up and know exactly what they are meant to do. In reality, direction becomes clearer through action and reflection. The first step is self-assessment. Ask yourself what problems you are willing to solve repeatedly. Every path contains difficulty. The question is not what looks exciting for a moment, but what you are willing to work on consistently. Direction should align with both your interests and your tolerance for effort. The second step is narrowing focus. You do not need to define your entire life in detail. You need a clear next phase. Choose a skill, field, or objective and commit to it for a defined period. Remove unnecessary alternatives during that time. This reduces mental noise and strengthens focus. The third step is structured progress. Break your direction into measurable milestones. Track improvement. Evaluate regularly. Direction without structure becomes vague ambition, but direction with measurable steps creates momentum. Over time, that momentum builds confidence, not because you suddenly became more talented, but because your effort now moves with purpose. Direction turns potential into power. At the beginning of this discussion, we challenged the idea that most people fail because they lack talent. Now the pattern becomes clear. Talent may influence how fast you start, but direction determines how far you go. Without direction, even high ability remains unused. With direction, even average ability can become exceptional. Direction organizes your time. It organizes your learning. It organizes your decisions. Instead of reacting to every opportunity, you evaluate based on alignment. Instead of chasing temporary motivation, you rely on commitment. This structure transforms random effort into strategic progress. Over years, the difference becomes dramatic. Two individuals may start with similar intelligence and opportunity. One drifts between interests. The other commits to a clear path and deepens their skill. Eventually, the second person appears naturally gifted. But the real difference was sustained direction. Most people do not lack talent. They lack a defined trajectory. When you choose a direction and stay with it long enough for compounding to occur, your potential converts into measurable results. In a world full of distractions, clarity is rare. And that rarity is what makes direction powerful.